Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 3 of The Village That Vanished. You, over the last 2 weeks, became an expert on The Village That Vanished. You became an expert so much so that you found out about the background of the story and about slavery in the 15th century, all the way up to thinking about the characters in this story. You came up with descriptive words about them, and you also thought through the characters' point of views. So let's get into writing a play. If we took this book apart and we made it a play, so we made it with dialogue of the characters. Let's think about how we would break this up. So we're going to do this over the next week. We're going to take this in small steps. Step 1 today of turning the book, The Village That Vanished, into a script is before we begin writing our play, we're going to need to think about who the characters are. Here are the characters. There's Abba Keneally, as you know, she's the young girl. She learns from her mother how to pray to the ancestors and saves the village by helping them cross the river. There's Jamili, who came up with the plan in the first place. She's the mother, and she prayed to her ancestors for a plan. Then there was Chimwala. She used the helps of her ancestors, but she also, being the older and very wise woman that she needed to stay in her village because of how old she was, but pretended to be a witch in order to trick the slavers. Then we have the villagers, who are a strong, hardworking people. We know that about them. And we know that they work together to be a strong village. And then we have the slaver chief and the slavers who come in, and we know that slavers are people who enslave other human beings. And so they're looking for people, but they get turned around by Chimwala. So here we have an example of how you start a play script. Play scripts usually begin with a list of characters and a little bit of information about each one. So if we take his example as a play about a little girl and her odd parents and her terrible teacher, then we can read his list of characters. So here we have his characters: Maria, an animal loving young girl with few human friends. We find out that she's young, she's a girl, and we find out something about her personality. Mrs. Sipsmith is Maria's teacher, and she's a strict disciplinarian. That means that she is strict, but she also makes a lot of rules. So again, we learn a little bit about her. We learn a little bit about her personality. There's Mr. Woods, Maria's father, who is a dishonest bank manager. Dishonest means he's not honest. He's the opposite of honest. So again, we learn that the role he plays in this play, and we learn a little bit about his personality. He's dishonest. Then there's Mrs. Woods, Maria's mother, who hates animals but likes quiz shows and celebrity magazines. So we can imagine her kind of sitting around watching TV and reading magazines. And maybe her and Maria don't get along. We don't know. But we also hear a little bit about her personality and who she is related to Maria. Then the second thing when you're writing a play is that plays are divided into sections called scenes, and each scene may have a different setting. So when we think about the 3 scenes or settings of this book, we have where it starts, which is the village. We have the river right outside the village is actually where the book begins, but then they walk to the village and we see all the villagers already having a meeting, and then they take this village down. So that's all within the first scene. In the second scene, we see the villagers go down to the river. We see the children run off, and we see Abba Keneally find the narrowest part of the river. In the third scene, we see the slavers come and speak to Chimwala, and the slaver chief becomes angry because he can't find anyone. So if we take a look back at the Woods play, the one that the little boy was writing, we see that this is scene 1. So a description of the settings is included at the start of each scene. We're going to work on our scenes today. So when we think about that play, scene 1 is going to happen in the Woods living room, where Mr. and Mrs. Woods are sprawled on the sofa staring at the TV. Maria is on the floor playing with her pet kitten. What happens in that description is you have to tell your actors what they should be doing before the play even begins. What should the scene look like? What should the actors be doing? So we can see here, Mr. and Mrs. Woods would be on a couch. You'd need a sofa, and you need a TV in the scene, and you need to see Maria on the ground with a pet kitten. So we are going to describe these three scenes: scene one, scene two, scene three. You're going to describe where you want your characters and what you want your scene to look like. Again, scene two, it's going to look a little bit different. We are going to have to figure out how to have it down by a river, and you're going to have to describe what characters are there. And lastly, scene three, we have a limited number of characters there, not the normal village characters, because the village had already vanished by scene three. So here's what today's work will look like. You are going to just start with character descriptions and scene settings, and then we will work on the dialogue another day. So, step one, you're writing a play script for the village that vanished. You can see here that the first thing you're going to do on your Google Doc, I'm sorry, this is a picture of your Google Doc. On your Google Doc, you have the characters, so who are they, and describe them. I've already placed the names in these boxes, and you just have to write on the right-hand side box a description of Abigail. You have to describe what age she is, if she's old or if she's young, and then use some of your words from last week to describe her as a character. The same for Jamili, Chimwala, the villagers, and the slaver chief. When you are finished with that, you move down here and you're going to describe all three scenes today. So, what would you like the stage to look like? Who would you like on the stage when you do this play? And um, where is it and who is there? Okay, so you're going to do that for scene one, scene two, and scene three. I'm going to go backwards one more time and show you scene one, scene two, scene three. This is going to be your work today. I've also, when you are finished with that work, I've also included another slide. It's just one slide, and it has um, The Three Little Pigs was done by this school as a play. You, I'm sure, know The Three Little Pigs and, The Big Bad Wolf. They took a book that a lot of us have read, and they were able to change that into a play. So see how they were able to do that? Get some inspiration on how you would change The Village That Vanished into a play. As an extension to all of this, I'd also like you to think about how could you make one of the scenes into a little diorama like you did 2 weeks ago for art. 2 weeks ago, you made little dioramas with things that you found out in nature. I'd like you to try that again, except for this time, make it look like one of our scenes that we're going to do. Um, just to show, maybe if you had to show your actors what your scene would look like, you're showing them a mini version of the scenes. So that's what I'm going to ask you to do. Again, you are going to oops, I'm so sorry, I started it. So you can see scene one of their play. So you can go back and watch that when you're done with this work. And that is in my assignment. It's going to be its own little slide that says Three Little Pigs. So enjoy this lesson, and I can't wait to see your work.